Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
When I was about 10 or 11 years old, I got my first pigeons. We built a pigeon coop, me and my father, out behind the house. I had fantail pigeons and powder pigeons, homing pigeons. I was a kid. Learned a lot. Loved those pigeons. And then one day, one of the pigeons got sick. I didn't know what to do. And I called around. I called veterinarians. What am I going to do? Maybe I should take my pigeon to the vet. And I called all these veterinarians. I couldn't find any vets that knew anything about pigeons. I was distraught. Over the course of a couple of days, the pigeon became more and more ill, and then it died. It died while I had a hold of it. I had taken it inside the house into my bedroom because I felt so bad for the pigeon. And I had actually laid down on my bed with this bird on my chest. I was trying to figure out what to do to save this pigeon. And I'm looking right at this pigeon, and I had names for them all. And the pigeon, I realized suddenly that the pigeon had passed away in my hands. I was upset. I was a kid. It was one of my first experiences with death. I came home. My mom came home. She worked. My brothers came home. My dad came home. I was distraught because this pigeon had died. And my mom didn't know what to do with me. My brothers were like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And then my dad came home. And I thought my dad would be sympathetic. You know what he said to me? He said, "If you're going to cry every time one of the damn things dies, we're going to get rid of them all." And I was like, oh! I thought, how insensitive. He was right. Because it was a pigeon, not a person. It wasn't even a dog. It was a pigeon. No, I mean, I felt bad. My dad, it's not like he was insensitive, but he loves animals. He does. But he was a man. And an adult is actually the better word. Not a man, he was an adult. He was mature, experienced. He understood the circle of life. It was the pigeon's time. The pigeon died. You got to deal with it. Keep it in perspective. Sometimes people eat pigeons. Mm-hmm. They're pigeons that people shoot pigeons. People shot a lot of pigeons, a lot of passenger pigeons into extinction. Birds. Ducks. We shoot ducks. We eat ducks. Who's been to KFC lately? The great ostrich story, the great ostrich show continues out in BC tonight. Oh my, people are so upset over the ostriches. Save the ostriches! Save our ostriches! As though it's like that must be the only ostrich farm on Earth. We're going to update you on what happened there. We'll tell you about the fire. We'll tell you about the ongoing legal battle, the stay that has just been issued by the courts, the drama. And there's lots of that to go around because we're also going to talk tonight about Jimmy Kimmel's return to late night television. Lots of drama there. The greatest show on earth. It's all the greatest show on earth when you put it all together these days. The great Ostrich and Jimmy show, or Jimmy and the Ostriches. Here in Kanakistan, anyway, those are the two big uns today, at least around here. Kinda. Except when I put it in perspective. Like really, if it's really just about the ostriches, which it isn't, but if it were just about the ostriches, then it would be like, maybe I won't even talk about it tonight. But how can you not talk about a story that has been created, amplified, leveraged into the political spotlight to create a spectacle? A great photo op. Never let that go to waste. Some people so upset. The rhetoric out there surrounding these birds, it's just over the top, off the charts. And a lot of people are buying it to the point where I think they would go to war to save the ostriches. I learned a long time ago that people care more about animals than human beings. I learned that one the hard way a few times. And so these freedom fighters, animal rights activists out at the farm in British Columbia continue their campaign tonight. As I say, we'll get into that. Also, Zelensky at the UN, echoing a lot of what Donald Trump said yesterday. Again, giving us, I think, a masterclass in how to deal with Donald. And, what else do we have for you? Those are the main things. Oh, yeah, and then Ian is going to join us later on in the broadcast because there's something he's been doing that ties into everything we're talking about tonight. And I want to highlight that and have a little bit of a discussion on that because it's all about free speech, new media, freedom of expression, laws, and what is a journalist. So stay with me. We will dig into today's top news stories when we come back on the other side of this. When the
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Where should we begin? What is the top news story of today? It shouldn't be these ostriches, but here I am talking about it already. Just, oh, those birds. All right, well, we're talking about it. Let's just deal with it. It's just reached an absurd level of absurdity today. I'll go back first to what happened last night. So we told you that they were building this wall of hay bales around the birds. Well, they've now received a court stay delaying the cull. So the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, out on site at that farm in Edgewood, BC, Universal Ostrich Farm, and now the government officials, they've stopped for the moment, and they are not going to cull the ostriches, which became infected with bird flu back in like December, January. 69 birds died. There was testing done on the carcasses, presence of the disease confirmed in several of the birds. And so, of course, they knew that the flock had been exposed and had been harboring the virus. That's how they know. That's the standard procedure. And so it's just been this ongoing fight ever since. There's a lot more to the story, not the least of which, in case you haven't seen our previous work, that farm had actually become an open-air biolab where they were doing COVID research by injecting the birds over and over and over again with COVID antigens in order to induce the production of COVID antibodies. This is information they're generally not talking about now. They're kind of giving selective information to people, to the public, through their own team of media influencers in order to manipulate public opinion because they're political activists out there. Anyway, they've got this stay challenging this all the way now to the Supreme Court. So this court stay, what it does is it delays the cull in order for the Supreme Court to consider whether it should hear this case, which is challenging the authority of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to proceed with the cull of these ostriches. The court says that this delay will remain in place until a decision is made, essentially, on whether the case will be heard or not by the Supreme Court, and a decision will be expedited. Now, the CFIA has until October 3rd to put together a counter argument to the farm owners whose lawyer managed to get this stay. And they learned about it this morning. And so people were pretty happy about it out there. But I don't think it will go on that long. I think a decision on whether the Supreme Court will hear this will probably be made much sooner than that. They're trying to expedite things now. CFIA officials still on scene. They did build this wall of hay bales out in the field. They got a lot of protesters out there. One of the reasons they've been trying to delay this whole thing is because they've been trying to get more and more and more protesters out there to create critical mass, to create a big problem for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency employees who are there to cull these birds, and for the RCMP who are there to control the situation, keep the peace, and keep people safe. That's their primary function. So that is what is going on out there. Now, the protesters say, we're just totally peaceful. We're completely peaceful. We're all about peace and love and peace. Well, last night, the hay bales went up in flames. It's under investigation. At this point, I don't think anybody really knows for sure what the cause of the fire was. Here's what it looked like last night.
That's all smoke.
And so, as you can see, that was a pretty serious fire last night at the completely peaceful ostrich protest. The protesters say the government set them on fire. Some of the people out there are accusing the government of setting them on fire. Because, why? Of course, the government would have the hay bales delivered, build the wall, and then they would, of course, set them on fire, right? That makes complete sense. And they were building the wall so that people wouldn't really be able to look in, I think, while the cull took place, because, of course, it's in 2025, especially city dwellers think milk comes from the supermarket. They don't understand what agriculture is about, and they certainly don't understand what slaughtering animals involves. People weren't too upset when those ostriches from that farm were being slaughtered and sold as dog food, but they're pretty upset now. And suddenly the freedom movement has become an animal rights organization. And yet calls from the freedom people to get animal rights activists out there have largely fallen on deaf ears, which is also interesting. Perhaps the animal rights groups, generally speaking, don't align politically with the political philosophies or ideologies of the people on the freedom side. Now, I have noticed that just within the last week, there has been at least one animal rights activist who has spoken out in defense or in support of what the protesters out at the farm are involved in. Now, again, I don't know how those hay bales caught fire. I am familiar with how arsonists have set delayed fuses in prior arson investigations that I've been familiar with on agricultural property in order to cover their tracks so that their arson would not be detected and so that they would not be convicted of a crime. I know of several methods that can be used to do that are like seriously almost no cost involved. You can do it with a lot of household items, and I'm not going to tell you how. And I can't speculate. Was it the government that set them on fire? I'm skeptical of claims in that regard. I see no advantage to the government doing that. Was it accidental? Possibly. We'll have to wait for an investigation. Will we ever know? Probably not. I don't think that's really the main concern for the CFIA people out there or the RCMP. I think they probably want to get through this, but it's being delayed and delayed and delayed. And the whole process delayed again because of the protest. And I can tell you that what you're watching here really is Canadian democracy at work in a way. And while people on the protest side, I'm editorializing here a little bit, keep saying things like the system is corrupt, you can't trust the government, and the court system is rigged so that there's no way you can win. And they're not giving us a voice or due process. And yet, what happened today? This was the system working and erring on the side of the property owner in order to make sure that they're given due process. They've had not just one day in court, but at least 2 days in court on 2 separate occasions. One where they lost in court, another appeal, lost there, and now again, they're appealing all the way to the Supreme Court, CFIA on site, ready to proceed with the call, and yet even at the 11th hour, the Supreme Court gives them a stay of proceedings in order to delay again so that the case can be reviewed again. You can't say they haven't been given due process. You can say they keep losing in court because the legal arguments that they're making are not standing up. Is the question being asked in court proper? You can assess for yourself. I'm just saying this is how the process has clearly been working and working in a way to ensure that they get their opportunity to put their case forward. And so they have done that. And they're going to get maybe another day in court. At least what you are getting here at a very minimum. And this is pretty serious because this is going all the way to the Supreme Court. And while if the Supreme Court rejects the case, you can say that the Supreme Court has at least looked at it to determine if this is something that has enough merit to warrant a full examination before the court, a court challenge. That's the way the system works, and they're working the system. And today, the system worked for the farm owners, and they're calling it a miracle. And maybe they'll win in court. Who knows? Maybe this time they'll have better legal representation, make a better argument. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. It'll end up the way it ends up. But as I'm watching all of this unfold, I'm seeing a lot of politics in play out there. I see a lot of half-truths. I see selective information being given to people. I see political posturing. I see coercion. I see people who claim to be proponents of free speech and freedom out there coercing people into doing things that they want. Case in point, I don't know if I've got it here or not. Maybe here we go. I think I can call it back up here. We lost the I think it's right here. I told you yesterday that the protesters, as part of their campaign, this is the same kind of stuff that the people on the left side of the political spectrum do. Go ahead and do it if you want. I'm just pointing this out. The protesters have been calling businesses that have been providing services to the government, like truck rentals, fence rentals, trucking services to bring the hay bales in, things of that nature. And so that's been part of their campaign. Here's the company in regards to the ostrich farms. They are delivering fences to Ready the Birds for the call. And then they've got a phone number and they're getting everybody to call there and say, don't give them the fences. Okay, you can do that, I guess. Put pressure on them. There's another one, Nucor Environmental Solutions. They want people to call there. Super Save Group. Not sure what service they've been providing, but any event. And then trucks, okay? But they've gone so far that they are harassing people that have nothing to do with it because they have made a mistake. And so here's a Daldogra, I guess, reposting something here, says, we are not hauling to the ostrich farm. We have been receiving calls and calls. My husband's photo and his number and our trucks are on the ostrich farm Facebook. We are no way associated with any of this. Please don't defame us. There is no proof or evidence we are doing this, and I can tell you from the horse's mouth that this news is absolutely false. All caps, triple exclamation point. The hay we are hauling is for dairy farms, for cattle, because they tried to convince the trucking company that was delivering the hay to turn the trucks around and not do that. Somehow the hay arrived yesterday. Oh, yeah. And then look at this. And here's a warning, essentially, to a business owner saying, I assume this company better watch every asset of theirs after this participation at Universal Ostrich Farm. Yeah. So people are worried about what the protesters might do after all the aggressive phone calls that they've made. I can't say exactly what's been said because I haven't heard the messages. But you can see that there are people who are fearful online because of the treatment they have received. That disappoints me. And as I say, the politics runs thick on this. And why am I sort of not surprised to see the conservatives chiming in on this? So here today, Mel Arnold, member of parliament, stood up in the House of Commons during question period to ask the Liberal government why they won't work with the agricultural community on the issue of the culling of 400 ostriches. Here's how that went.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, farmers love their animals and would do anything to protect them. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is planning to cull 400 ostriches in BC because of an outbreak of avian flu. When it comes to animal safety, Canadians expect due diligence and transparency. Canadians are looking to this government to explain why the cull is necessary, but the Liberal government has not posted a public update in over a month. Canadians want to know, why did the Liberal ministers not work with the agriculture sector to resolve this issue?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to make sure that this member knows that I am working very closely with the Minister of Agriculture, and the case is now in front of the court, so I won't comment more. Thank you.
Oh, the greatest show on earth. And we've seen before I get into that, I should also show, when I talk about the greatest show on earth, what seems to be the common thing that always happens at these protests anymore? The photo op. They got to have the photo op. Well, the government out there doesn't want people looking because, of course, if you saw video of the way, say, I don't know, a cow was slaughtered and then turned into hammer burgers, would you go to McDonald's? There's stuff, that you can see online showing that stuff, but people don't want to see that. They just want to go through the drive-thru and get their burger and a bun and not think about where it really came from. The CFIA knows this. The government knows this. The farmers know this. Interestingly, when I spoke to Katie Pasitny, interviewed her on the program, She had indicated that, they used to sell the birds, their ostriches, for food. And I asked her how they went about slaughtering them. And she said they used halal. They used the halal method to slaughter their ostriches, but then didn't want to talk about it anymore. Because, of course, you don't want to talk about how you kill the birds. Well, the CFIA doesn't really want people looking either, but the protesters do. They want the all the gory graphic reality of the killing on screen. And if it's the same thing with war. If you show all of the death from a war, public support suddenly erodes dramatically. If you don't show the actual death, but treat coverage of a war like it's a football game with maps and little dots that you move around and toy tanks and things, then it becomes very unreal and something that people have in their head, but it becomes a game, a sport where they pick a side. Well, see, that's what the protesters out there are trying to do. They're trying to paint the government as authoritarian, dictatorial, a government that engages in overreach and barbaric inhuman behavior and the language they're picking is very important too, because they're trying to shape your perspective. That's why they're saying they're murdering the ostriches. They want to murder the ostriches. That's why they've given the ostriches some names, including Charlie. Most recently, I guess they must have renamed one of the birds, because we were told before they all had names, but then after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, they added Charlie. So one of the birds is now Charlie. I don't know if they went through a formal legal process in order to get court permission to rename the bird, which they seem to think has rights like human beings. But in any event, here's CFIA covering up security cameras, which the farm has placed all over the place out there, because they're broadcasting live feeds at times from the farm. And so they're blocking the camera right there in this video from Chris Stacy. Yeah. And I totally understand why the government doesn't want you to see it. The protesters do in this case. Of course, if they were slaughtering the ostriches using the halal method in order to send them to market for food, or to sell to people so we could eat them, or to have them chopped up into dog food, they might not want that shown. Didn't want to talk about that. Again, perspective, reality. Reality is pretty uncomfortable for people. I have to remember where I was going to go with this next. Okay, let me take a break while I get the rest of this queued up. We got a lot of other stuff to dig into as well here tonight. Stay with me. Going to be right back.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media publishing things that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So the other important element to this, which people are not talking about, and it certainly wasn't brought up in the House of Commons by that Conservative member of Parliament, is the intervention that has been taking place all through this, both at times up front and a lot of the times behind the scenes, by some members of the MAGA administration and MAGA supporters on the US side, American influence, big money from billionaire John Catsimatidis, from RFK Jr., intervening and sticking his nose up in Canadian politics, trying to exert US pressure to convince the Liberal government or pressure the government to not proceed with the cull, supporting the protesters. And Dr. Dr. Oz, who also weighed in and said, you can send them on down to my farm and I'll take care of those ostriches, which the farm owners declined. So all of that is ongoing. And of course, then we saw Katie Pisitny call on Donald Trump directly. Was it yesterday? To intervene at the last moment to save the ostriches. Please, Donald Trump, President Trump, save the ostriches. I don't know what, to fly some F-35s up here and or send some U.S. troops. Not sure exactly what she wanted the U.S. president to do, since he has no sovereign authority up here on Canadian land. This is not his country. But she called on Trump anyway. The thing is, this is one farm, bunch of ostriches. It's an issue that we're being told is about, it's a good cause, we're told. My question really at this point is, what's the cause? Are we trying to save the ostriches? Is that what the whole thing is about? Just save these ostriches? Or is there a greater cause? Like, okay, if you save the ostriches, then what? Oh, we got to study them. So you're going to commit a bunch of government money to that? What does that look like? Where does that go from there? You save the ostriches, you call that off. They've been used. They were being used for research, injected with this COVID antigen, which, by the way, they prepaid for, and they have a whole stockpile of this stuff still on hand. And so what, they're going to just let them go back to doing this experimentation in this open air facility, uncontrolled environment? I don't know. So what's the cause? Save the birds so they can be experimented on more? Save the birds for what kind of research? They weren't doing any research into avian flu out there. They were doing research into COVID. They tell people they're doing research, but they don't tell people that it was COVID research. And that's the truth. You go back and watch my interviews with Katie Pisitny rather. And they're the farm owners. They acknowledge it. They also acknowledge that 69 of those birds did die. And yet I have people messaging me still saying, no birds died. Yeah, they did. And well, they're going to call them for no reason. Well, the CFIA thinks they have a reason. The people on the farm have another point of view, and they say that they're healthy, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're going to play out in court. Whatever happens, happens. I'm just giving you the information. But I'm not going to sit here and cheerlead, and I'm not going to lie for people. I'm going to give you the straight up facts. And I'm tired of the half-truths. It wears on me. I have to tell you that. And while all this is going on, and apparently the U.S. has it right, we have it all wrong, I guess we should just become part of the 51st state so that the ostriches can be saved or something. But I don't know. I guess maybe we should just move on to other news. What can I tell you about other news of the day today? Well, I can tell you let me find the Oh, okay. Well, here's a good story, totally unrelated. I sure hope Dr. Ostrich and RFK Jr. and Donald Trump get the message so that the ostrich farm people can have their say. So let's just move on, shall we? So bird flu has wiped out more than 30 million chickens so far this year. On the U.S. side, new bird flu outbreak has been reported in Ohio. Continued outbreak of bird flu has resulted in the culling, look at that, of more than 30 million poultry birds across 9 states this year. That's about 10 million more than the last quarter of 2024. Whoa, wow. The loss of egg-laying hens resulted in a national egg shortage, with prices sky high over the first months of the Trump administration. Since then, the cost of a carton of eggs has fallen thanks to decreased demand and falling infections. Last week, the average wholesale price of eggs was $3.13, which is down about $5 from earlier this year. And so, yes, this is an ongoing problem, particularly right now in Ohio, where they continue to have big bird flu outbreaks and they're culling flocks. In the United States, not like 398, like in some cases, 1 million or more at a time. I'm sure, though, that the Trump administration, Dr. Oz, RFK Jr., I totally get why you need them to come up here and intervene. I was looking up some information on this completely unrelated story on the U.S. side of the border regarding bird flu. And I can tell you that as of this moment, best information I have is the ongoing highly pathogenic avian influenza H5N1 outbreak has continued to impact the U.S. poultry industry. And they have a stamping out policy on the U.S. side of the border, depopulating infected flocks, culling. Data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, and state agriculture departments indicate over 12 million birds affected in the past few months, primarily in commercial turkey and egg-laying hen operations. And actually more than that. That's in the last few months. And then we saw that over 30 million birds culled over the past, what was that, a year? And the most significant outbreaks at the moment appear to be in the Ohio area. Other states involved in this in the past 6 months since Trump has taken power, again for the second time: Minnesota, 4.1 million birds culled. Iowa, 3.2 million birds culled. Pennsylvania, 2 million. Ohio, just ramping up there, and they're up to over 1.5 million. California, 800,000. Some of these stats may not be completely up to date. The numbers may be higher. Other states involved: Indiana, Texas, North Carolina. Back in March, 1.8 million birds were culled in Iowa, Minnesota. April was a big month, 3.1 million in California and Ohio. May, they had new foam euthanasia guidelines issued by the United States Department of Agriculture. So yeah, it's I guess what we really need here in Canada is for the United States government, for U.S. politicians to come up here and tell us how it's done. That makes sense. Perspective. It's important. I had chicken for lunch. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Interestingly, as I was just poking around online, I just came across this, and this is fresh from within the last 6 hours. Bird flu is discovered in a central Nebraska dairy. Bovine bird flu is now a thing in Nebraska, according to the Nebraska Department of Agriculture. The Nebraska and U.S. Departments of Agriculture in recent days identified a case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in a dairy cattle herd in central Nebraska. The animal plant, this is from Cedar County News in Nebraska. The Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, working with the National Veterinary Services Laboratories, confirmed a similar strain of the virus to what infected a herd in California. Cattle are at little risk of death with proper care, and the herd has been quarantined, officials said. Nebraska State Veterinarian Dr. Roger Dudley asked the state's cattle producers to monitor their biosecurity protocols and contact a vet if they notice any symptoms. Ag producers can find more information on how to handle sick animals at this site. So I'm not sure what the science is behind any of this. I'm not sure what the protocols are. I do know that somebody sent to me overnight a link to what is a leaked Zoom meeting with Canadian health and ag industry government officials who were also looking at this same issue. Some of the jargon they were using was fairly technical. Dr. Teresa Tam was on the call. Somehow somebody leaked that out to the public, and it was being portrayed online as though it was something sinister. I watched it. If it was something sinister, I wasn't quite cluing in to what it was supposed to be, other than, and I didn't think it was sinister. They were talking about exactly that, incidentally, looking for the virus in milk, because there are concerns about that because of this outbreak mentioned in that article, the previous outbreak in California. So they're aware that this is now being transmitted to the dairy industry. This is why they have been so aggressive about trying to limit the spread of this avian flu virus. Also talking about ways to mitigate the risk, how to eliminate the risk or neutralize the virus in dairy-related products like milk, and pasteurization came up, and I don't know really what the conclusion is on that. I am relieved to know that the government, health officials are at least monitoring it, that they're aware of it, and they're looking for solutions to keep us safe. I hope they come up with a proper solution. I can't say that I have a great deal of confidence in Dr. Tam after the pandemic, so I totally understand why protesters are out there raising concerns and acting to some degree the way that they're acting. But my God, what a show. And I don't know if we're going to get to a better place as a result of all of this, because there's so much politics involved and so much emotion. And again, I ask, what is the real objective here? When I see online streamers saying that the police are basically acting like, well, let's just come right out and say what they're saying, Nazis, and treating these particular ostriches like they're special in some way when they're not, and that there's been no avian flu research done out there at all. I don't know what the real cause is that people are out there supporting. What is the cause? What's the end? What's the objective in the end? I mean, I know they're valued, they're special. We have to do research on what does that look like? What does that mean? It's pretty murky to me in a way, and yet at the same time, when I see the performance, the circus that has been unfolding out there for many, many months, I see that disruption is perhaps the real cause, the real ultimate goal, but who knows? Be careful what you support. In the end, you might just get it. And if you don't know what you're going to get, you might be in trouble when you finally do. Save the ostriches? I think maybe it's about something a little bit more than that. Let's move on to other stuff, like for real this time, because there is other news to dig into tonight. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so we're back. Just one last thing with regard to the bird thing. Well, maybe two things. A lot of this reminds me of this episode from Yellowstone, where the character, what's his name? Is it Rhett, the tough guy who protects the family? You know, the real tough guy. Anyway, he's on the road hauling some cattle, and a kid comes over and he lets the kid take a picture with the cows or whatever, the horses, whatever it was. Cows. I think it was, yeah, cattle. And then a family comes along and they're like, hey, can we get a picture with the cattle too? Or whatever, or the horse, whatever. And he just looks at them and he says, no, this isn't a damn petting zoo. Yeah, that's harsh, but true. It's livestock. Which brings me back to the lesson my dad taught me. And I have to wonder if somebody is going to cry, if a farmer is going to cry every time one of their damn birds dies, maybe they're in the wrong business. Just saying. Oh, Rick, you're so cruel. No, I'm not. I'm not. I love my dog, and I cried when my pigeon died. I'm a softie, actually. But my dad taught me an important lesson. Because that's one of the harsh realities of life. Okay, Jimmy Kimmel. He came back last night. A lot of people are like, oh, it's a triumphant return. Oh, you know what? Before we get into that, let me just, I absolutely need to acknowledge this story. Haven't mentioned it yet, but it is important. This one's very important before we get to the Kimmel stuff, because the Kimmel stuff's going to tie into what Ian is going to talk with me about in a little while. We'll save it for the end. This story here, the shooting at the Dallas ICE facility. Wow.
As well as Dallas police, as you talk about, we're waiting to hear not only from the chief of police, but the mayor of Dallas, just a few short steps away. They're expected to walk to the podium at any point. We have just heard, in fact, I think they're there now. Let's listen in.
Prayer. And that prayer changes things. And so I'm going to ask everyone.
One dead, two critical condition.
Please join me in praying for the families of the folks who lost their lives today. Pray for the speedy recovery for those who are hurt and were injured in what happened today. But maybe even more to the point.
Actually, two dead.
We're a country and a city that needs prayer. So I'm going to ask you all to join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, support one another, help us all get through this very difficult time, not just in our city, but in our country. And that's why I'd ask you to pray for our nation. There's a lot going on right now in our country. A lot of it's confusing. It's a scary time. I've got children. I've got 3 young children. And I'm here to tell you that it is challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things. And it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country. It can change the city. So please pray for everyone who's affected by today's tragedy. I also want to say thank you to the Dallas Police Department, and say thank you to the Dallas Sheriff's Department, Dallas County Sheriff's Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, and all of our various federal law enforcement partners who acted so quickly today to make sure that today's tragedy wasn't worse than what it was. So on behalf of the city of Dallas, I want to say thank you to all of you. And you're going to hear from some of those folks later, but I want to let you know that we appreciate what you all do, not just today, but every day, to help keep us all safe. And lastly, and this is really important, I would ask all of the city of Dallas residents who can hear me right now, let's be patient, let's remain calm, and let's let our law enforcement partners, our police department, do their job. This is an active investigation. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job to help make sure this continues to be a safe city.
Okay, so we're going to pull out of that for the moment. I'm going to just try and get you the most up-to-date information on this story. So 3 detainees shot at this Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Dallas. Happened this morning. One person, 2 people I'm told are dead. I'm seeing conflicting information on that, but I believe it's 2 now. So a shooter with a rifle opened fire from a nearby roof onto U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement location in Dallas, killing 1 detainee, wounding 2 others in a transport van. And the reason that there's 2 people dead is because the shooter was also found dead. The suspect identified as 29-year-old Joshua John. So the exact motivation for the attack, not known at this time. FBI Director Kash Patel posted a photo on social media showing a bullet found at the scene with anti-ICE written on it, which Donald Trump also commented on today. And it's another attack, a public attack being characterized that way, which some people are saying is maybe politically motivated and trying to tie this into the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The American Immigration Lawyers Association is calling the shootings a stark reminder that behind every immigration case number is a human being deserving of dignity, safety, and respect. Strangely, it was a detainee that was killed by someone who wrote anti-ICE on a bullet. To me, that's confusing. I guess we'll have to see what the investigation reveals. A lot of people sending me information on these birds. I guess more fencing is being delivered out there. And that's why I say I don't think at this time people are saying, well, why don't they get on with the cull if they're going to get on with the cull? Yeah, I think they're going to do just that. I don't think that the Supreme Court will take long in reaching some sort of a decision on this. It will be expedited. They'll fast track any kind of decision. It probably will not be heard at the Supreme Court level. That's my hunch, but I don't know. Anything can happen. Maybe it'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. Maybe they'll win their case. Maybe they'll have a great legal argument with a better lawyer. I don't know. But my guess is probably not, just because so few cases are actually heard at the Supreme Court level. And so at this point, they'll review it, but don't hold your breath. And so if more fencing is being delivered out there, I think you're also going to see that the CFIA, with the help of the RCMP, will continue to secure the property. And we'll see where things go. Also, I think someone's been trying to email me some information. I have not seen anything come in. If you have information that you're trying to send me tonight, you can send it to maverickmultimedia@mail.com. But I'm not seeing anything come in. But I'll try to keep updated on this the best I can. We're going to be going in with Ian pretty soon. And I don't know, somebody is saying that UNDRIP is being used against the CFIA. Let me just, well, I think that that's maybe to a degree true here. Oh, I see. That's interesting. I'll bring that up. So. Oh, yeah, they're pulling out all the stops, and they have every right to do that. So they're getting First Nations. The bottom line is they're getting First Nations people out to the farm, and they're trying to assert land rights now. So that's part of it. Here it is here. This is the post that people are trying to draw my attention to. So I'll bring it to you. Can't get away from this story.
Tribe for protection. And so I just want, if you guys can please, this needs to go to the higher ups. And the ostriches and our land is, as of last night, we've been taken on under the signatory Indian tribe for protection. And so I just want, if you guys can please, this needs to go to the higher ups. And the ostriches and our land is now under the protection of the signatory tribe, Indian tribe. And we met with them last night. So this is a cease and desist from the signatory Indian tribe.
I'll run this.
Thank you.
All right, Katie, tell us a little bit more about what's in your hand there.
So we were able to meet with an amazing gentleman that sees the abuse that is happening here on private property, on land and animals that hold medicine for people. And he drafted us up a cease and desist order and offering that we are fully put under the protection of the signatory Indian tribe, and there is to be no harm brought to these animals, and there is to be and we are supposed to take it to the highest up, so the chief of commander and whoever's in charge of all these operations, and we will see where we go from here. But we are on the unceded territory of Sepwepek and Asilix tribal people. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for somebody stepping up to do the right thing, save these animals that have medicine for humanity on a global scale, and all these animals that have become a beacon of hope with their heartbeats. And let's hope that we can change history today by coming together and uniting cultures and uniting ways of life.
Did someone from this tribe come here today or yesterday, and do you know how far they traveled?
They came 3 hours late last night, arriving at about midnight. We had to meet them off the farm. They are concerned about their own safety as well, just with so much police presence and what they're offering and what this means. And they were lovely. And so they had this ready for us to be able to serve and to deliver. And as you would know, and after yesterday's arrest, we've been praying for hope, or for a miracle. And each day we're going to take every miracle we have until these animals are saved and the world can have a celebration that we did it.
And last question, you're not giving the land, but they're just helping sort of with this fight that's happening in land that they believe is unceded, correct?
Correct. We are just now under the protection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Treya. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. What was it that they were using the oh, there it is, ostrigen. This is what the research was being ultimately used for. Again, perspective. This is one of the things that came out of the antibody research that has been done in conjunction with the Japanese doctor from the school over in Japan. And they made products like this, ostrigen. Ostragrow. I saw hair growth in the front and top of my scalp after approximately 10 weeks. Though never completely bald, my hair was so thin you could easily see my scalp. Now the new hair covers nicely. I am very happy with the results. Powered by ostrich antibodies. Dr. Yoshiro Sakamoto is president of Kyoto Prefectural University in Japan. And then he also used this research to produce masks with embedded ostrich antibodies that were supposed to kill the COVID virus. And then we showed you as well that they were being promoted on the, what was it, the World Economic Forum website. Yeah, we showed you the link. So if you want better hair, save the ostriches. Not sure if the science is sound. So we're back. We were temporarily interrupted there, but we are back. I believe we're still on. Yes. So yeah, perspective. Okay. Oh, it's just more and more. Yeah, I know. I went black. So people are messaging me. Oh, also, look at this one. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm back. Here's a nice message. Now, STFU, Rick. Somebody doesn't like me talking. I don't think I'm going to shut the fuck up. No, don't think so. I will not comply. If you have something to say, go get your own damn channel. Say whatever you want over there. No, I don't think I'm going to, no, not going to be censored. Not going to happen. Jimmy Kimmel, back last night after being temporarily silenced. I watched his monologue on YouTube later. Massive audience, about 6.3 million on television, and told about 26 million people have watched online on YouTube alone. So that's well over 30 million people that watched Jimmy Kimmel's monologue last night. But you know, the thing about Kimmel is he's been inconsistent. And while people are saying, yeah, he's back and in top form, I didn't get that sense last night. He, to me, as much as he was out there giving us what we're told is supposed to be a return to some sort of free speech, what I got out of it was it felt stiff. It felt like the content was being shaped still, maybe not silenced, but the content shaped and tempered by this new environment. Yeah, somebody's talking about how the they're taking down the security cameras at the scene there at the farm. Yeah, I know. I showed you that. I told you why. Do you think they should put live feeds at all the slaughterhouses, at all the abattoirs out there? I know I'm sick at what this ass is spewing. Get the facts or shut up. Yeah, I'm giving you the facts. You just don't want to hear them. You want me to spin the narrative and be an activist. I'm giving you the information. And I'm not going to STF you. I'm not, didn't get the price on that Ostrogro. Where are we at? Back to Kimmel. So, yeah, his monologue last night felt stiff. Didn't feel like he was just speaking freely at all. His commentary very much shaped, I think, by the threat of censorship. Here's this.
I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human. And that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever.
Yeah. And all kinds of people weighing in on this. But, you know, of course, when the FCC, the head of the FCC has made threats saying, if you don't do this, you don't do that, we might take your license away, your broadcast license. It definitely seems to have an impact. The thing that people don't quite get to, I think, is that, and I'm sorry, Ian, I'm going to get to you. Stay tuned. Stand by. We're going to come to you very shortly. My friend, the thing is, I don't know how much of what Jimmy Kimmel says is really Jimmy Kimmel. Because he's a performer. All these guys have staff, writing staff, and they're union. So I know that these late night hosts, to varying degrees, have influence, in some cases a lot, in other cases less. In some cases, they're just reading what was written for them. My guess is that that particular portion of the monologue that got him suspended was not something he wrote himself. My guess is somebody on staff wrote that stuff. It just had that feel to me. I don't think that was just Kimmel saying that. Last night as well, I don't get the sense that it's entirely him. It was, you know, he's got at least somewhere, but I think about 10 or 15, maybe even more writers. And remember when they've had writers' strikes out in Hollywood, movies, TV shows couldn't get produced because the writers were on strike. It's because people like Kimmel, even because of union rules, they can't just produce all of the material themselves. So what he's presenting is not always him. It's the same thing in the news business. And I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, working in newsrooms, that your news anchors often are just presenting, talking, reading off a teleprompter, literally just reading scripts that they never write. It's someone on staff in the background, or a bunch of people really writing this content for them to read. That in itself is, I think, important to realize here, because Jimmy Kimmel is, and I think kind of always has been, sort of a mouthpiece for whatever network he is working for, largely ABC Disney, a huge company that he acknowledged last night in his monologue. And of course, he said that he's a very small part of this giant corporation, Disney. And it's absolutely true. But if you go back and look at what Jimmy Kimmel has done in the past, I find a lot of contradictory stuff while he's being portrayed as some sort of free speech hero. And in a way he is, I guess, tonight and last night in particular, because he is the face of it all. But there's a whole group of people behind him, is the point that I'm making, including the corporation itself. Disney is involved in this, and Disney is also shaping the messaging that he's bringing forward. And you have to, when I think back, Jimmy Kimmel, over a lot of time, a lot of years, has been spreading pretty negative messages, especially during, the pandemic. Came out and he said this. If I can find it for you. Yeah, here it is right here. This is what he literally said, that people who didn't get vaccinated could die. And I don't think he cared. And there was too much of that going around during the pandemic, but this did not get him kicked off the air at the time.
Hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. Hospitals get.
Keep in mind, too, that certainly since Trump came down the escalator almost a decade ago, Kimmel, all these late night talk show hosts have made careers. They've based the expansion, their ratings, the success of their shows on hammering away at Donald Trump. So there's all of that as well. And the interesting thing here to take note of is that when Trump and a lot of people on the conservative side were banned off social media, it wasn't that long ago, there was Kimmel cheering it on.
Trump has been suspended from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even Snapchat. But don't worry, Mr. President, there are still plenty of apps you do have access to. You still have Spotify to drown out the sound of millions of people cheering as you leave. You still have Pet Finder since you're on the outs with Mike Pence. You have Cameo, which will soon be your primary source of income. You can still play Among Us, a game where everyone accuses each other of being against them. You'd love it. You could play Pokemon Go. You and Donnie Jr. can hunt Pikachus together. And when no one else wants you, don't forget, there's always your old friend, the Domino's Pizza Tracker. Not only did Trump get banned from Twitter, Google, Apple, and Amazon removed the Parler app from their platforms. Parler is where all the right-wingers gather to post QAnon nonsense and misspell the word parlor. And no one was more upset about Parler going away than a sneaky little congressman named Devin.
But it's more than just the financial aspect of that. Republicans have no way to communicate. I have 3 million followers on Parler. Tonight, I will no longer be able to communicate with those people.
I mean, other than being on Fox News right now. Why does Devin Nunes always look like somebody knocked his ice cream out of his hand? Trumpers are complaining bitterly that they're being silenced. In fact, they won't shut up about being silenced. On their 3 propaganda TV networks, on 1,000 conservative radio shows, all over the internet, they are screaming about being silenced. They won't be silent about being silenced.
Yeah, me either. So to the people saying STFU tonight, no. My answer is no, I will not. Now, with regard to more Kimmel. So there he is He got the highest ratings in over a decade with last night's program. So kind of backfired on Donald Trump and his administration as they put pressure on and resulted in him being suspended. The other interesting takeaway from this is, do you notice how I only mentioned Charlie Kirk once tonight? And that was when I talked about one of those birds being renamed. Isn't it interesting how these news cycles evolve? So suddenly the focus is not even on the seriousness of that or what has happened. Now it's on Jimmy Kimmel, late night performer. Very strange the way this works in America. Here's comedian Jim Brewer, who says he doesn't trust Jimmy Kimmel. I think sometimes this comedian commenting tonight on a comedian provides some very useful perspective. He certainly did during the pandemic for me, and he is again here tonight.
Which brings me to Jimmy Kimmel.
Let me just get the speed right here.
Okay. I guess he's coming back tonight.
This was obviously yesterday.
Certain things, certain places are not going to air him or whatever. I watched some people get all bent out of shape and they were screaming Second Amendment, Second Amendment, Second Amendment. Or First Amendment. What am I talking about? Second Amendment. Guns. First Amendment, stupid. Thanks for helping me out, by the way. He's live. His donkey still works. He's all right. The First Amendment. Okay. Well, that is true. But here's the thing too. Hate speech, which is, in my opinion, what he created. I'm not talking about his last comment. Let's start with Jimmy Kimmel. I'm going to tell you what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. With me, personally. He never said my name, but he represented me. And a lot of people I know, not just here in America, but around the world, that wanted to take time to think for ourselves, wanted to take the human effort, not politically, had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with instinct. That's a God-given thing, by the way. Instinct, your intuition, being able to see things without getting emotionally involved. And he basically said, hey, when it comes to letting people in a hospital during COVID, hey, you know what? If you're vaccinated, come right in. If you're not, too bad, you can die. Now, yes, we can argue that's the First Amendment, but I think there's repercussions when you're that hateful towards other humans. And just because you're paid really well to sell hate, some of us would put morals in front of that price tag. Some of us. Some of us will go, I'll take the money. What do I got to say? Hey, if you're not vaccinated, go eat some horse goo, Wheezy. He's so brilliant. He's on our side.
smart. He listens to the scientists. He listens to the specialist. He must be right. He's on television. Quack, quack. To me, that's when I went, oh, that's who you are. That's your message. You don't believe in what we say? You could die. I remember it. A lot of you remember that. Let's play the video in case you forgot it.
I hope you had a relaxing Labor Day. It was not a fun Labor Day weekend COVID-wise. The number of new cases is up more than 300% from a year ago. Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. We've still got a lot of pandemwits out there. People are still taking this ivermectin. This poison, the poison control centers have seen this spike in calls from people taking this livestock medicine to fight the coronavirus, but they won't take the vaccine, which is crazy. It's like if you're a vegan and you're just like, no, I don't want a hamburger. Give me that can of Alpo instead. One of the reasons...
Here you go, Jimbo. Here you go. You like that? Oh, we have so many more things for you to say towards hateful things towards your fellow humans. There you go. We know you like that, right? Do we have a good headshot on Jimmy? Psst, 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 psst. Can we get one of those? Can we get one of these in his neck? Click, click. Sell it really good. Oh, never mind. Your buddy is. We're dancing vaccines. We're dancing vaccines. Quack, quack. We're the First Amendment. Now, here's the crazy part. Disney backs that statement. Disney had a problem with what he said recently, but Disney didn't have a problem back then. ABC didn't have a problem. No one in ABC sat there, listened to the monologue. I was on Sunday Live. The FCC, the network executives sit in the room. They watch everything. They want to know everything you're going to say. Everything. Jimmy Kimmel don't come out and go, no one's watching, right? Here we go. No. He had a board listen to him. He has a team that writes for him. And he chose, his team chose, his workers chose, ABC chose, Disney chose. You're not vaccinated. Go die. Can't believe they took him off for his First Amendment. He's brilliant. Quack, quack. All the podcasters go crazy. Where's my rebels? He's taking over. He's a Nazi. Who else is he going to fire? That's what you really think it was about? Okay. Okay. And you know what? Here's the deal. I don't know what it's like to be Jimmy Kimmel. I really don't. I don't know what his childhood was like. I don't know what his household is like. I don't know if he fears he's not going to have money one day, or if he feels he can't function without being on television and saying the things that he's paid to say, or so for that I forgive him. I do forgive him. People shouldn't be all pissed and hateful that he's back on the air. Let him. Like I said last week, let haters hate. Let them hate. Let vile human beings violate other human beings verbally, physically. We see who they are. We see who they are now. So I forgive. We should forgive. But that doesn't mean we should trust. Big difference. Oh, I forgive you. I forgive all of you for what you said during those times. But now I don't trust you. I don't trust you when you tell me information about a certain country and who's the good guys and who's the bad guys. I don't trust you when you tell me we need to hate so-and-so and we need to go to war with so-and-so. I don't trust you because you lied to my face with great authority. And a lot of us didn't back down. And you still act like it didn't happen. I forgive you. I forgive all of you. But we don't trust you. Big difference. Forgive, no more trusting. Now we just trust each other. Oh, God, that felt good.
Yeah, I'm there. Except I'm also finding that some of the people that I thought I could trust have turned out to be people who message me and tell me to STFU. And Jimmy Kimmel also did this kind of stuff back when he did The Man Show.
What you think of the step? I mean, do you think that she's attractive or not? Take another look at it. What you think of the statue? I mean, do you think that she's attractive or not?
And then he last night even mentioned, fighting for women's reproductive rights. There's a lot of contradiction and maybe hypocrisy with Jimmy Kimmel and a lot of them. Big money, big corporations, big staffs, and a lot of the words coming out of their mouths, not really them. So they canceled him, brought him back, but I don't even know if what he's saying is even him. Stay with me. We'll come back on the other side, and then we're going to get into some information about, still related to this, but AI and free speech. We'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow. Maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're going to progress here with our conversation tonight on media, information warfare. Really, that's what's going on out of that farm. That's what has been going on with the Jimmy Kimmel show. That's what it largely has been going on with the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's about information warfare. It is about the show, the greatest show on earth. Let's bring our friend Ian in, contributor to the channel from time to time and fairly regularly. And he has produced some new work recently. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Rick?
Well, I am fine. Make sure you speak loudly. Audio sounds a little bit low on your side. That's a bit better. So, Ian, you wrote a Substack that I thought was pretty interesting. You sent it to me to kind of preview, so I was privileged in that way to get it. Let me just see if I can get it up on the screen here. Do you want to tell people what your Substack was about, first of all?
Well, actually, I was doing some chronology with what's going on in Venezuela, right? And I'm looking at the rhetoric of Trump for the last, since he's now the second time on his term. So I'm wondering, what is Canadian sovereignty and all that? And where is the probably the risk that he could use the same excuse, if you will, with Venezuela to take over Canada at some point in time? So it's a little bit of I would say it's chronologically, it's historical, till I get to the point where I go to the a sort of synopsis of what might be going on down here. What is the green, if you will, behind the smoke?
Yeah. So it's interesting. These news events seem to wrap around each other, dovetail onto each other. The 51st state issue, Venezuela, even what's going on at the bird farm, the ostrich farm out in BC, with the involvement of these U.S. politicians and MAGA supporters, billionaire oil magnate, shopping, grocery store tycoon from New York, owner of WABC radio, getting involved in Canadian politics, sticking their nose in out there as the 51st state rhetoric ramps up, tariffs, the economy, all of these issues. And so when you sent me this article, there were a few things that I thought were worthy of discussion tonight, given what we've gone through here over the last number of weeks, and certainly with what happened to Jimmy Kimmel and all of that in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. First of all, I want to rewind a little bit, because it wasn't so long ago, a few weeks ago, some people on, I think it was the call-in, or maybe it was just in the chat, but there were people saying, you are not really a journalist. And right. That's a complicated and yet a simple question. Do you consider yourself a journalist? Because I say that you can be a journalist if you want to be a journalist, and that what you're doing, writing your Substacks, is a form of journalism. What's your view?
I think what I do with Substack is more of a chronicler. Basically, what you're doing is taking into account historical events and try to input your form of chronological or a chronological event, and just drive some attention to that of what might come next. It's a form of journalism. You got to see patterns around you. That's the key aspect of it. But journalism comes in many flavors. Like you say, there's activism, like what some would argue to do, or for example, Rebel News and so on. So there's other mainstream media, or you got sensationalized news also. So there's many flavor to it, and it just depends on what you tap in or what your message is that makes you a journalist to a certain point.
Sure. So you're learning the craft, as we all are, really. But you're pretty new to the field of journalism. Not to say that you're a general assignment hard news reporter out there on a beat like the crime beat. You're a crime reporter for a newspaper or something like that, but you're writing, you're chronicling news events. You're trying to provide depth and perspective through your work. And so that is a form of journalism. Journalism can take many forms, as you pointed out rightly. And even today, I noticed I received an email from Rebel News, because I do subscribe to their stuff. And there's Ezra Levant asking a relevant question, which has been asked not just by him, but many people, but certainly by him many times. And that question is, what is a journalist? Let me show you. There it is there. Bring it up on the screen for you. And there he is. I just got back from 3 hours at the Federal Court of Appeal. Rebel News is fighting for our right to be accredited journalists under the Liberal Journalism Licensing Scheme, also called Qualified Canadian Journalism Organization. Arrayed against us was a phalanx of government lawyers sent by Mark Carney. Oh, yes, he is continuing Justin Trudeau's policy of restricting journalism from independent voices. But the headline here is, why does the government get to decide who is a journalist? That really is a question that I think could be expanded to, why does anyone get to decide who is
actually,
a
the
journalist?
answer, I think what he's trying to say is that what is a journalist from the government perspective? Because if you look at the case QCJO, which is the Qualified Canadian Journalism Organization, what it does is that basically you're under either or not the payroll of the government as a journalist or a news media, like for example, CBC or CTV.
That you kind of touched on a key point. You're paid by the government. What he's doing there is he wants to qualify as a media organization and have the same level of qualification under government guidelines as the legacy media, so that his company will qualify for money from the online news fund that the Liberal government set up. And there are certain criteria that you have to meet in order to get that money. So he's going after the money. Regardless of whether you get that money, it doesn't mean you can't be a journalist. All that does is say you qualify for this money because we, the government, under our program, have decided that you qualify for these reasons. But that doesn't really tell me that someone is a credible source for media. So there's that level of it. The other thing about the other reason I kind of wanted to talk to you is you sent me the article to kind of review it before you published it. There was the first draft that I read. I sent back a note to you saying I found the style was somewhat inconsistent. What I meant by that was I could sort of tell that there were portions that were absolutely 100% you writing it, because I could tell by the sentence structure, the tone, and so on. And then there were other sections that I could tell you didn't really write. Your words, your thoughts and ideas, perhaps, but it looked to me like you were using proofreading tools like digital or maybe even artificial intelligence to proofread your copy, and it was resulting in very inconsistent style through the article. What can you what process were you using to construct and proof your copy?
Well, first of all, I got to say to people that I'm dyslexic and also ADHD. So as a French mother language person, it's kind of hard to put all my ideas in English sometimes. So I will write it in English actually, and put all my ideas as I can on the OneNote application on my computer. So from there, I will take some snippet of it and use an AI or correctors to make sure that the sentence looks proper or professional and all that. So to make sure that my writing looks good, I need some help. And I cannot always look at a human or some editor to tell me where is my error are. So I will use a AI sometimes to make sure that everything pops up. And the thing is that they tell you everything, where it doesn't sound good, where you could change the thing, what sentence you could use. So this way, I just sometimes bit of copy paste or just relook at everything, rewrite word by word what they put down there. But I reread myself or reread the AI first, because I don't want them to steal something that doesn't sound like me. So I want to make sure that they do have the core idea of what I'm trying to put out there. So from there, this is where I take what I need to put on the Substack.
So I just took note of it. It's something I thought we could just mention on the program tonight, because even like I've been dabbling with AI. I recently proofread a book as a job. So of sorts. Anyway, I spent a lot of time proofreading this book, but the publisher made it very clear that you couldn't just use AI to proofread the book. It had to be done manually by a human being. Nevertheless, of course, I did use some digital tools to check for spelling, help identify grammar errors, comma placements, things of that nature. As I was doing that work, I found that sometimes AI or the digital tools in the proofreading systems weren't always accurate. And that's why it needs to be proofread by a human being. As part of the proofreading process, it's also something, as a proofreader, you have to make sure you don't put any of your words or ideas into the copy. You need to make sure that you preserve the voice of the actual author. And if you use AI, that can undermine that as well. You need to preserve the style and the tone to make sure that the author's voice is preserved, because tone and style is a very important part of this as well, which highlights for me a serious issue that is present for all forms of journalism, all forms of media today, which is to say the influence. I see already this AI creep taking place in all forms of journalism and all forms of media, really, where it's resulting in almost a homogenous or an kind of media that is beginning to take form already, where you're getting a more consolidated perspective on whatever reality is being shaped through media, because the AI engines are being used by journalists, media organizations, everyone out there to one degree or another. And so the people who have created the AI engines are really influencing the work of journalists, the work of creators, whether it's people making movies or podcasts or whatever it is, and the public doesn't necessarily know whether it's AI or whether it's just the person. Just like tonight, I said, I don't know what Jimmy Kimmel it really thinks. I don't know if what I'm hearing coming from his mouth is really Jimmy Kimmel, or if it's one of the writers on his staff, or a bunch of the writers, or if it's the Disney Corporation putting words into the copy that's coming out of his mouth, or if it's even artificial intelligence. But given even what you saw from Jim Brewer, he's all doesn't trust. That's because largely of what happened during the pandemic, but also now because of what I'm seeing online, what I'm experiencing through the practice of my craft journalism and conducting myself in a professional capacity in the media industry, even proofreading a book. I see the influence of AI really taking hold, really taking root in a variety of, I would say, concerning ways where it's influencing the creative process, then influencing the public because the people are being influenced by the content that is being created. I'm not sure where all that leads, but when I read your article, just like some of my stuff, as I've been using these tools, I see that it influences me. I could see that it was potentially influencing you. It shapes the style, the tone of what you're creating, also in part because you are bilingual. So you are relying on the AI for really to make sure that your English is correct, the grammar is correct, but in the process of using the tool to craft proper English versions of your Substack, the AI engine, I think, is also having some degree of influence. How much influence do you think it's having on your work?
Well, it depends. Mostly what I do is I have a long conversation, voice to voice, with the AI in question that I'm going to use for my work. So basically, they do have a huge idea and gist of what my thought is, how I react to certain things. So from there, I go like, okay, so now can you try to give me a little draft of something about what we just have discussed? And boom, they just give me something, and from there, I will read what they gave me, and from there, I'll give them, say well, what I like, what I don't like, whatever, and we'll just put it out there. But what I do is just I take part of it and just, okay, I see how you want to put the word out there, and I just rewrite the whole thing my own way sometimes. And I just put out my own words, most of all, and then repeat up with the AI just to make sure that everything sounds professional and grammarly correct. So,
well, I thought that your article was a worthwhile read. I'm just going to put the link to your Substack in the main Rumble channel chat, and people can go there and check that out. Subscribe to Ian's Substack if you would like to. Certainly go and read the article. I think that it's
really thought-provoking.
It is thought-provoking, and we've touched on these issues here: the strikes on Venezuelan drug boats, the issue of the concerns about the U.S. government under Trump maybe just using amplified or distorted or exaggerated issues like drug cartels or national security, border security, terrorism as pretexts to go to potentially war. And we're seeing that huge military buildup around Venezuela. We've seen human beings actually killed with U.S. force at sea, raising a lot of questions about the legality of what was done there, and the ongoing rhetoric about Canada as a 51st state. So these are all I think, very serious questions, and you raise them all here again in your Substack. So I just put that out there. And even this, I don't know if we're going to pivot away from this here now, Dragon. Is there anything I'm gonna just pull something else up that you can help me with as we kind of near the end of the program? Is there anything else you want to add with regard to this discussion tonight?
Well, I will say that nowadays, media literacy is really important for everyone. So we need, I think, to look at the technique or the technique used by journalists nowadays, or even, influencer, because what they're using is tactical communication presentation. So that's what I would probably suggest people to do, is try to, do some research about journalism, how it's done, what is journalism, and that's going to make you a big gist of what's going on in your mind right now, because it's not only about journalism, it's about also the message.
Okay. Tying into all of this has been what's going on in Gaza, Venezuela, Canada, but these wars as well. Yesterday, we saw President Trump at the UN General Assembly delivering a blistering, highly critical speech saying that the UN has become basically an ineffective body where they sometimes write strongly worded letters but really don't achieve anything. Today, Vladimir Zelensky had his turn at the podium, along with many other world leaders. In his speech, Trump's was supposed to be 15 minutes, by the way, ended up being about 50 minutes long because the teleprompter wasn't working at first. So he just kind of went on a tangent and he just took as much time as he wanted, 50 minutes instead of his allotted 15. Also upset because that escalator didn't work at the UN building. And he was pissed about that. I guess they have an investigation going on into that. That's a whole other side issue that maybe we'll have to touch on again another night. I mentioned it briefly last night, but we'll maybe come back to it. But here's Zelensky. And I think this is also, again, a masterclass in how to deal with Donald, because Zelensky, as much as he was criticized, raked over the coals, and thrown under the bus at that meeting a while back in the White House where he was told, you don't have the cards, you can't win. Yesterday, Trump pivoted, changed his position, says Ukraine can actually win all of its land back. Now, and Trump criticized the UN heavily. Now, what's Zelensky do? I think he was very smart. What he did here today, he comes in and he echoes a lot of the same comments that Trump came forward with yesterday, also highly critical of the UN. Let's listen.
Dear leaders, dear friends, and all those who can become our friends, because you want safety and peace just as much as we do. Today, no one but ourselves can guarantee security. Only strong alliances, only strong partners, and only our own weapons. The 21st century isn't much different from the past. If a nation wants peace, it still has to work on weapons. It's sick. But that's the reality. Not international law, not cooperation. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, you know perfectly well international law doesn't work fully unless you have powerful friends who are truly willing to stand up for it. And even that doesn't work without weapons. It's terrible, but without it, things would be even worse. There are no security guarantees except friends and weapons. No Ukrainian choice this kind of reality. And knowing our people, they would have chosen a different priority. Ukrainians are peaceful people, but they are people who want to live freely in their own independent country. That's why we invest in defense. For many nations, there is simply no other way left. Nations can speak about their pain from stages like this, but even during bloodshed, there isn't a signal international institution that can truly stop it. That's how weak these institutions have become. What can Sudan or Somalia or Palestine or any other people living through war really expect from the UN or the global system? For decades, just statements and statements. And even everything happening in Gaza remains without a way out. Even now, Syria, after all the changes, still has to appeal to the world to ease the sanctions that are choking its economy. It has to ask and wait. Syria deserves stronger support from the international community. And as Russia's war against my country goes on, people are still dying every week. Yet there is no ceasefire because Russia refuses. Russia abducted thousands of Ukrainian children, and we have brought some of them back. And I thank everyone who's helped. But how long will it take to bring all of them home? Childhood slips away faster than adults are able to help. Look at Israel. Nearly 2 years have passed and hostages still haven't been freed. They must be freed, but even that still hasn't happened. And for years, there have been no real answers to other threats, either chemical weapons and famine used as a weapon. Last year, at this assembly, I warned the world about the risk of radiation disasters, especially due to Russia's occupations of our Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe, but nothing's changed. Nothing's. And yesterday, the plant went into blackout again, and Russia hasn't stopped shelling even in areas near a nuclear facility. And because of international institutions are too weak, this madness continues. Even being part of a long-standing military alliance doesn't automatically mean you are safe. Just recently, 19 simple Russian drones violated Polish airspace, and only 4 were shut down. Luckily, they were not Shaheeds or even worse. Otherwise, the results would have been horrific. Estonia had to call a UN Security Council meeting for the first time in history because Russian fighter jets deliberately entered its airspace. Moldova is defending itself again from Russia's interference. We have helping Moldova, and Russia's trying to do to Moldova what Iran once did to Lebanon. And the global response, again, not enough. We have already lost Georgia in Europe. Human rights and the European nature of the state system are only shrinking there. Georgia is dependent on Russia. And for many, many years, Belarus has also been moving toward dependence on Russia. Europe cannot afford to lose Moldova too. It's important to remember how the world once ignored the need to help Georgia after Russia's attack, and how the moment was missed with Belarus. How Moldova must not be lost. And for Europe, supporting Moldova's stability is not costly, but failing to do so will come at a much higher price. That's why the EU needs to help Moldova now with funding and energy support, not just words or political gestures. We must not forget about protecting the rights of people and the rights of nations in regions where these rights are under threat. The UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights must apply everywhere. But the Taliban in Afghanistan dragged a whole country back into the dark ages. Cartels in some Latin America countries are more powerful than the government there. This is all about collapse of international law and the weakness of the international institutions. And so it's about the rise of weapons. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, yesterday President Trump stood right here in this hall, and God saved him from a murder attempt during the campaign. A shot was fired from a rifle, and just a fraction of an inch saved his life. Just days ago, President, along with hundreds of thousands of Americans, honored the memory of Charlie Kirk. Sadly, his life was cut short by a bullet. Once again, violence with a rifle in hand. We also mourn the Ukrainian woman, Irina Zarutska. She was brutally killed with a knife here in America, the very country where she was seeking refuge from Russia's war. And almost every day, when we open the news, we see headlines about violent attacks happening all around the world. Most of it is done with weapons. People are already used to, but weapons are evolving faster than our ability to defend ourselves. Now, there are tens of thousands of people who know how to professionally kill using drones. Stopping that kind of attack is harder than stopping any gun, knife, or bomb. This is what Russia has brought with its war. It used to be that only the strongest countries could use drones because they were expensive and complex. Now, even simple drones can fly thousands of kilometers. War tech doesn't care about geography anymore. It's now reshaping it. Just recently, airports in Europe had to shut down because of drones. Authorities couldn't even say what kind of drones they were, who sent them, or from where. Last week, North Korea announced the test of a tactical strike drone. That means even countries with limited resources can now build weapons that are dangerous to their neighbors. Ukraine and nations like Saudi Arabia know all too well how dangerous Iranian attack drones are. But what happens when all the types of drones become available, even to small terrorist groups or cartels? The world moves too slowly to protect itself, and weapons move fast. Now companies are already working on drones that can shoot down other drones, and it's only a matter of time, not much, before drones are fighting drones, attacking critical infrastructure, and targeting people all by themselves, fully autonomous and no human involved, except the few who control AI systems. Dear leaders, we are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. And if there are no real security guarantees except friends and weapons, and if the world can't respond even to old threats, and if there is no strong platform for international security, will there be any place left on Earth that's still safe for people? We need global rules now for how AI can be used in weapons, and this is just as urgent as preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. We need to restore international cooperation, real working cooperation for peace and for security. A few years from now might already be too late. 10 years ago, war looked different, and no one imagined that cheap drones could create dead zones, areas stretching for dozens of kilometers where nothing moves, no vehicles, no life. People used to imagine that only after a nuclear strike. Now it's drone reality. Mass-produced, simple drones, and without AI yet. Ukraine doesn't have the big fat missiles dictators love to show off in parades, but we do have drones that can fly up to 2,000-3,000 kilometers. We had no choice but to build them to protect our right to life. Control over the sea used to depend on having a big navy. Ukraine doesn't have a big fleet, but we succeeded. In the Black Sea, we pushed what's left of the Russian navy into remote base. And we did it with sea drones. That's how we protect our ports and maritime trade routes, because Russia has left us no other choice. And our Spiderweb operation, when cheap drones destroyed or damaged dozens of expensive Russian strategic bombers, became a real example for special forces around the world of what new weapons can do to old systems. These very Russian bombers attacked our cities. And none of this would have happened if Putin had not started this full-scale aggression, full-scale war. And every year that this war goes on, weapons become even more deadly. And only Russia deserves to be blamed for this. Dear leaders, to protect lives, Ukraine builds underground schools and underground hospitals. To protect lives, we have to spend more on protecting power stations from drone and missile attacks than on building sports facilities or cultural infrastructure. Ukrainian farmers are learning how to protect their equipment from Russia's FPV drone strikes, and for them, that challenge is far greater than climate change. Russia's war has put us in this situation, but do you have protection against similar threats? The facts are simple. Stopping this war now, and with it, the global arms race, is cheaper than building underground kindergartens or massive bunkers for critical infrastructure later. Stopping Putin now is cheaper than trying to protect every port and every ship from terrorists with sea drones. Stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So we must use everything we have together to force the aggressor to stop. And only then do we have a real chance that this arms race will not end in catastrophe for all of us. If it takes weapons to do it, if it takes pressure on Russia, then it must be done. And it must be done now. Otherwise, Putin will keep driving the war forward wider and deeper. And we told you before, Ukraine is only the first, and now Russian drones are already flying across Europe, and Russian operations are already spreading across countries, and Putin wants to continue this war by expanding it, and no one can feel safe right now. So first, we are now building a new security architecture for ourselves. More than 30 countries are already part of our coalition, and we are strengthening army, launching joint weapons production with partners, and defining financial commitments for defense in a way that could become a security model for any other nation. If security guarantees work for Ukraine, something more than just friends and weapons, it will mean that people were able to make national security not a privilege for a few nations, but a right for everyone. Second, we are ready to make our modern weapons become your modern security, your modern weapon. And we have decided to open up arms exports. And these are powerful systems tested in a real war when every international institution failed. And we are also ready to grow our defense production together with strong partners so that their protection is modern and reliable. You don't need to start this race from scratch. We're ready to share what has already proven itself in real defense. And third, many in the world are still relaxed. Still. But look at how many countries are here at this General Assembly. Countries that are at war, or just came out of war, or are trying to stop one, or openly getting ready for one. War has already reached too many people to pretend it has nothing to do with you. So it depends on you. Whether you help peace or continue trading with Russia and helping Russia to fund this war, it depends on you whether prisoners of war will be freed, whether abducted children will come home, whether hostages will be free. It depends on you. What will define existence? War like now, or our joint strong actions as it should be? Yesterday we had a good meeting with President Trump, and I also spoke with many other strong leaders, and together we can change a lot. Of course, we are doing everything to make sure Europe truly helps. And of course, we count on the United States. I appreciate the support we are receiving. Yes, much depends on the G7 and G20, but in the end, peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it. Please join us in defending life and international law and order. People are waiting for action. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini.
Okay, so that was Zelensky at the UN. I think he was echoing some of what Trump said yesterday and touching on all of the current hot button news stories highlighting the issues that will resonate with Trump and MAGA. So he's reaching out to Trump in that way. It's, I think, an attempt to try to just maintain and build on a relationship with Trump as Zelensky tries to dig in his heels and maybe even take this defense of his country, this war, however you want to view it, to Russia.
Yeah.
And Trump even yesterday saying, really changing his rhetoric, saying, I think that Ukraine, with the help of the European countries, can maybe get all of its land back. That's a huge change in tone. Any thoughts, Dragon? Ian?
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. What he is saying, basically, is what Trump has basically said, paraphrasing what Trump said probably a day or two ago. And I think he also kind of said between the lines that actually Trump doesn't have all the cards, like he previously said at the White House, to a certain degree. So.
Well, I just went over to RT to see what the Russians are saying about a lot of this stuff tonight. They're taking some interest in this attack at the ICE facility. Trump vows to eradicate radical left terrorism after attack on ICE facility. So that certainly gives MAGA and Trump more ammunition in their fight against the radical left or liberalism. That will amplify things, I think, and that concerns me too. Down here, if you scroll, you'll see that the Russian ambassador saying Kyiv's backers living in parallel reality. And then down here a little bit further, Trump changes rhetoric on Ukraine conflict. I'm not seeing them really even acknowledge that Zelensky spoke at the UN here. They may have a story, but I'm having trouble finding it on RT. So maybe they're purposely ignoring his presence at the UN. Wouldn't surprise me if they do ignore it completely as they try to portray Ukraine as a country that is not really a country, not legitimate. Trump changes rhetoric. He says U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that Kyiv can still prevail in the conflict with Russia 3 years into the fighting, even as Ukrainian forces have been steadily losing ground in recent months. The statement marks a stark shift in rhetoric from the U.S. president. Since taking office, Trump has made repeated attempts to mediate the Ukraine conflict, initiating numerous rounds of talks. So they're taking note of the change in tone. Where do they end up with this? they don't go too far with it. The nation's military have also been steadily advancing on the front lines for months. Russian forces had taken control of 3,500 square kilometers and 149 settlements since March. Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov reported in late August. So RT acknowledging, that change in tone from President Trump, but not going too far. We're just one last thing. And this is always also a story that RT did highlight in their headlines that I'm going to show you. At the White House, they have this hall with portraits of all the presidents. Oh, also, I should also mention that several Antifa members were arrested and charged with criminal offenses after surrounding an ICE building in Eugene, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And they have been charged, and I'm told this is for the very first time, these Antifa members have been charged as domestic terrorists in alignment with what Trump has been promising to do with Antifa. Maybe I should mention this story too before it gets too stale. So much news going on. This is out of near my hometown, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada. This is a house, front lawn. Somebody took a lawnmower and mowed a swastika on the front lawn. As a result, charges have been laid. So there's that. Oh my God. I never thought I'd see the day in Canada, but there it is. Somebody put a swastika on their front lawn.
Incredible.
It is. So 2 people facing criminal charges under the Ontario hate speech and mischief statutes. I'm sure some people are like, what's the problem with that? And where was I going with this other thing? I can't remember. What was the other story I was supposed to show you here at the end? Oh yeah, the auto pen story. So they have this hall with all the portraits of the presidents. Here it is here. And so all the presidents are there, but they've changed. But Trump and his administration, they have changed up the Biden picture. Wait till I show you what they've done here. Let me bring it up. This is on X. Here we go. So panning down. This is actually video from BBC. See, there's Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. And what do you got? Look at this. It's just an image of the auto pen. That's what they put up. Wow. Oh, man. So they replaced his portrait with the auto pen. And that's a real thing. That's not AI. That's not me making it up. That's from the BBC. It's a real story. So I don't know if the auto pen made Biden an illegitimate fake president, but I know that, or if AI makes any of us illegitimate journalists, but Ian, I'm going to call you Ian. Try not to call you Dragon, because I like to be in the real world these days. But in my books, sir, you are a journalist. And with that, I will throw it over to you for a quick final thought before we sign off for the evening.
Well, real quick thing that I forgot to say, so because I hear people kind of thinking out loud already when they hear me talking about AI and how it's helping me to use for my writing. Well, actually, I will tell you things. And Rick will tell you exactly that it's right because I told him already. What I do is I do a lot of research, and from what I do remember and stuff that I get around, this is how I get to work. I will say paragraph by paragraph, slowly, just building on the thing. And this is how I get basically the whole thing, because I don't ask the AI to just, okay, I give you an idea and give me the whole thing in 10 seconds, and I'll just copy paste the thing. That's not how I work. I really take my time to put my things properly in the right English portion. So that's how I work the thing, and I hope that it's explained everything to everyone.
Well, go check out Ian's Substack. I put that link in the chat, and I kind of broke my own rule over there because we're not supposed to put links in the chat. But in your case, because you're a contributor, and this is the discussion for the night, something for people to reflect on, review, I put it in there. So I used a little bit of discretion and privilege and posted that in the chat. That being said, your voice, Ian, is very important, as is everyone's in a democracy, when exercised in a responsible and constructive manner and in good faith. And that being said, I will be back tomorrow night using my free speech to comment on the top news stories of the day. No doubt I will be using it to comment more, even more, on the ostriches, because the more people tell me to STFU, the more I say I'm going to use my voice and speak even more loudly to get people closer to the truth. So tune in tomorrow night, the Maverick News broadcast. Tomorrow night, I promise you, especially the people who are telling me to STFU and more, but both by text, chat, and email tonight, I promise you, tomorrow night's show going to be kick ass. See you at 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
Y'all better stand back. He's laced up his boots, cracked open a cold one, and somebody's about to get C-A-K. Well, he rolls into town on a Harley so loud, with a stars and stripes cape and a jaw like a plow. Don't need no laser beams, no high-tech tricks. He just winds up that boot and lets it fly real quick. He kicks ass to the left, kicks ass to the right. Captain Ass Kicker's looking for a fight. From sundown to sunrise, he'll brawl and bite, 'cause Captain Ass Kicker is alright. He's the outlaw hero of this one-horse town, putting punks in their place, laying bad guys down. Ain't no Cape Crusader wearing tights and blush, just a trucker hat and a boot full of hush. He kicks ass in the morning, kicks ass at night. C-A-K, don't care if you're wrong or right. You run your mouth, he's quick to ignite. Yeah, Captain Ass Kicker is dive right. He don't fly, he don't swing from no thread. He'll just kick your ego straight out of your head. Justice don't come with a judge and a gavel. It comes with a boot and a trail of gravel. He's banned from 6 states and a Waffle House, but the people still cheer when he clears the louds. He don't play nice, don't read no scripts. He just cocked his foot. Oh, there it ripped! He kicks ass in the east, kicks ass in the west. C-A-K, don't sleep, he don't need rest. If there's trouble brewing, he's your invite. Captain Ass Kicker is bringing the fight.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.